He was the one who ended a tyrant's reign, the son bold enough to do what no one else dared. Free his own family from a father who buried them in darkness out of fear. Everyone remembers what Cronus became. Almost no one remembers who he was before that. Standing in the wreckage of his father's rule, Cronus made a vow. He swore he would never become what Uranus was, never fear his own children, never destroy his family to protect the throne. He believed it too. But this is the story of exactly how that vow broke. The peace that came first, the prophecy that shattered it, and the fear that turned a liberator into the very thing he once destroyed. Everyone remembers Cronus as the god who swallowed his own children. But before that, he was the son who freed his family, the one who stood against a tyrant when no one else would. For a time, Cronus ruled fairly. The world experienced an age of peace so complete, the ancient Greeks would later call it the Golden Age. There was no war, no suffering, no fear, just Cronus, ruling beside Rhea, his queen, and the world their father once terrorized, finally at peace. Crops grew without struggle. Rivers ran clear. Mortals, when they came into being, lived long lives without sickness, without conflict, without the weight of dread that would come to define ages after. It was, by every account, the closest the universe had ever come to paradise. Cronus watched over it all, and for a long time he believed he had earned this peace, that he had built something his father never could. He believed he had broken the cycle his father started. He believed fear would never rule the way it once had. He told Rhea more than once that their reign would be different, that whatever came, they would face it together, without the terror that had driven Uranus to bury his own children in darkness. Rhea wanted to believe him, but peace has a way of making people forget how fragile it is. One day, a prophecy reached Cronus. Not a rumor, not a warning from a rival. A certainty, whispered by Gaia and Uranus themselves, the same parents whose war had shaped his entire life. He had not expected to hear from his father again, not after everything. But some warnings arrive regardless of who delivers them. One of your own children will overthrow you, just as you overthrew your father. Cronus said nothing at first. He simply remembered the darkness his own siblings had endured. He remembered burying his own fear once and calling it justice. He remembered believing in that moment that he was doing something noble. And now that same fear was being handed back to him, wearing a different face. He told himself he was different, that he wouldn't repeat what Uranus had done, that he had already proven by freeing his family that he was capable of something better. But prophecy has a way of finding the exact place where a person is weakest. Rhea gave birth to their first child, a daughter. Cronus looked at her and felt the same dread his father must have felt, looking at him. It arrived faster than he expected, faster than he was prepared for. He didn't imprison her. He didn't hesitate. He swallowed her whole. Rhea screamed, begged him to stop, reached for her daughter a moment too late. But Cronus had already convinced himself this was mercy, a swifter, cleaner ending than what Uranus had done to his children. He told himself he wasn't a monster. He was simply making sure the prophecy could never come true. He told himself this over and over until it almost sounded true. One child came after another: Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon. Each one swallowed the moment they were born, before they could even open their eyes to the world they were meant to inherit. Each time, Cronus told himself it would be the last. Each time, it wasn't. Rhea held nothing, raised no one, watched every child she loved disappear before she could even name them properly, before she could memorize the shape of their face. Her grief grew heavier with each birth, settled into her like stone. But so did something else: resolve. She began to understand that grief alone would not save the next child. Only action would. When she became pregnant a sixth time, Rhea made a decision Cronus never saw coming. She went to her own mother, Gaia, and begged for a way to save this child. Gaia, who had lived through her own war with a husband consumed by fear, understood exactly what Rhea was asking. Gaia gave her a plan. When the child was born, Rhea wrapped a stone in swaddling cloth and presented it to Cronus as though it were the newborn himself. Her hands did not shake, though everything in her wanted them to. Cronus, without looking closely, without hesitation, swallowed the stone whole, believing he had ended the threat once again. He never noticed the difference. He never noticed his wife's eyes, watching him, holding a secret larger than anything he could imagine. The real child was carried away, hidden on the island of Crete, raised in secret, far from his father's fear, in a cave where his cries could not reach the ears that would have ended him. His name was Zeus. Cronus ruled on, believing the prophecy had been defeated, believing he had done what his father couldn't, protected his throne completely, without the imprisonment, without the war that had defined his own childhood. He didn't know that the very thing he feared most was already alive, already growing, already being raised for the exact purpose Cronus thought he'd prevented. Years passed. Cronus grew confident, even proud of what he believed was his victory over fate. He ruled the Golden Age long after that day, never once suspecting what was being raised in the shadows of Crete. But fate doesn't need permission to arrive, simply waits. And on the day it finally did, Cronus would learn that swallowing his children hadn't saved his throne at all. It had only delayed the very war he was trying to prevent. The cycle his father started, the one Cronus swore he would end, was about to come home to him after all.